chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you very much for being with us as we preview the FA Cup third round weekend. It's going to be exciting, I promise. We will preview the Ipswich Town game on Saturday. We'll round up all the transfer rumours, because there's been no signings, and the contract rumours as well, and contract talk that we've heard from Matt Taylor's pre-match press conference, as we'd expect. We have Mick, who cannot, I tell you everybody, before we start recording, could not contain himself with excitement FA Cup. He was giddy, I tell you. Anyway,
I still am, mate. I still am. I'm just like, I'm bouncing off at walls here waiting for Saturday.
Oh, brilliant. Danny Douglas back with us. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, thank you, lads. How are we all doing?
Wonderful. And Tom Ayres back with us. How are you going, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good. As excited.
Well, pleasure to have you back with us. First of all, thank you everybody who is joining us. If you're subscriber numbers have shot up over the last couple of weeks, so if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, please do go and subscribe. We're 900 by the end of the season. Like 75 more or something stupid like that. It's not many we need. So if you haven't already, please do so. And same with iTunes, Spotify. Make sure you've subscribed over there as well, because if you were listening, I assume you liked it. So thank you very much. So I honestly don't know to start. Let's talk a bit about FA Cup first, then we'll talk about some transfer stuff. Chris Nichols says, "What magic?" What do you mean?
The magic of Ipswich away.
Yeah, we are going to hear from Ipswich fan later on in the show. We've done some of that, so you'll hear how excited they are about playing Rotherham in the third round as well. As excited as you'd expect, I think. Is it just because of the timing? Is it just because it's two teams who play each other a lot, or is it just a general feeling that the FA Cups, unless it's a big glamour tie, it's just not maybe got the feel it used to? I don't know. What do you think?
For me, it's just about the way that we've performed over the last few games. You know, if we were performing well, I'd be a lot more keen to be involved. But I'm just finding myself a little bit down and fed up about the way we've been performing, and I just can't motivate myself to show a great deal of interest. I'm sorry, it's not a great advert for the rest of this podcast, that is it?
No, if we're going to do an advert, that's probably the opposite of what I wanted to look like.
So, well, you know, we can work from there. I've set a bar low. Let's see if we can raise it a bit.
Okay. Simon Thorne says, even to all the fans of the 2023 FA Cup winning Millers, the road to Wembley begins. Ready for Wembley. Yeah, well, that's positivity for you, Danny. That's positivity for you.
I mean, yeah, I'm loving the positivity, but at the same time, it's not a World Cup year now, so we're not going to Wembley, are we?
True.
Next one's going to be 2026, I'm afraid. So we might get to quarterfinals, maybe. Because semi-finals are at Wembley now because the FA is strange. But yeah, so if they move the final and they say, "Oh, we can't have it at Wembley for whatever reason," because it's getting renovated or something, I don't know, and we get it played at Old Trafford, then yes, we are going to win the FA Cup this year because it's not at Wembley. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get past the quarterfinals because we're in 2023 now, and next World Cup is 26. So yeah. Bringing us back down to earth, lads, because let's be real.
I don't think we could be much further down to earth. Tommy, you've obviously missed a few episodes. What's your general feel of Rotherham United at the moment? Because it feels as low as it's been a long time for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's the issue with everyone now. I think if we were in a good run of form and enjoying the performances, then I think everyone would be up for an FA Cup game because it's just another game to watch. But the fact that we're playing how we are and the results are coming as they are, I don't think anyone's really too fussed about the next game, let alone an FA Cup game, especially where we're playing Ipswich and Freddie Ladapo, which should be fun.
Oh yeah, I think Freddie might be the only person that's happy about the draw, to be honest with you. Yeah. If he plays, I assume. Mike Miller comes with a more positive attitude. He says it's the wrong attitude at the FA Cup this time. It's really important. It's a chance to have a go, find some crumbs of confidence for the more important game in brackets, in air quotes. Sorry, the games ahead. Yeah, Mick. There's that. There's about getting back on the horse. I can also talk about the financial side of the game. If you win the game, it's £100,000, £105,000 or something like that. If you win the game, so and bearing in mind we're in a transfer window where apparently every pound seems to count. That could be massive in terms of that could be an extra player. And in terms of a loan, that's a loan signing. That's a free transfer and his wages covered. That side of things could be vital.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is if we win, then obviously you're in that. And like you say, you've got the opportunity to hopefully get a bigger draw and some money. That is one positive of it. It's so difficult at the moment to see us getting out of the rut that we're in. But we're playing a League One side, so they are a league lower than us, although they are doing very well. We've got enough to beat them. There's no question about it. But it's how we line up and approach the game. I'm all for Mike's positivity, and I do agree with everything that he says there. It is important, and it would be great to go out there and gain a little bit of confidence from a decent performance. But I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling that there are going to be any changes or sufficient changes to the way that we're playing to get that confidence boost. I'm just not. And the reason being, I've not seen any. In the last 5 games, all we've seen is a deterioration in form and performance rather than any form of improvement anywhere along the line. So, yeah, I'm all for it, Mike, and I do agree with you. It is important, or could be important, but I'm really pessimistic about it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Chris Nichols asks, when was our last good FA Cup run? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily define it as a run, but we won in the third round in 2002. I mean, we entered at the third round stage. We won 1 game. But, that's as good as it gets, really. We've only got, I think we've got to the 5th round either twice or 3 times. It's very, very rare. Danny, you've never seen us win in the third round. You've never seen us get past the third round, have you?
Nope. So I'm basing mine purely off what Ian Bradley said, 67, 68, 5th round. Imagine if we got to the 5th round this year, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Little FA Cup run during the low patch.
Exactly.
Yeah, FA Cup
We'd be typical, wouldn't it? We'd be worst run we've been on in years, and we have a cup run. We're just typical.
Yeah, watch us play the best we've ever played this weekend, and then go back to what this deterioration has been.
I like what Mick's just said about winning the FA Cup and getting relegated. We won up Wigan because we'd be the first Championship team to win it in like ages, but then still get relegated to League One.
Yeah. The Europa League. Yeah. It's Europa League, isn't it?
Yes, it's yeah.
Imagine a League One team at Europa. That'd be comical, that, wouldn't it?
That'd be even better. I thought that's what you meant. I didn't realise you.
No, just win a game, Tom, not the whole tournament, just one game.
Very true. Yeah.
What counts as a run then, Mick? How far would it have to be 5th round for it to be a run, or can we just win 1 game and say it's a good cup run?
I think once you, from a Rotherham United standpoint, if you win 2 games, that's a cup run.
The expectations are so low.
In the same competition, obviously.
In the same competition, yeah.
So we've already played in League Cup. If we're playing an FA Cup, I suppose that is a cup run by my definition.
Yeah. What's that? 21 years since we last made it past the 3rd round. That was a win against Southampton. We may as well. This is a stage on normal football podcast. We go through our memorable cup runs. We have the one to talk about, really, Mick. So we might as well briefly mention it because me and you were the only ones that were there on the podcast. That game against Southampton in 2002 was one of those special Millmore nights. They were the high flying Southampton. They were in Europe that year. They'd just beaten Liverpool 4 and 5 days earlier, and they came down to Millmore, and it was just one of those glorious nights, weren't it?
Yeah, it was. Malatiti played, didn't he, as well?
Malatiti came on, yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those Millmore nights, and yeah, it was great. It was great. and there's been some great over the years, some fabulous cup wins. Arsenal springs to mind at Millmoor, which I think was probably before you were born, Matt.
Was it the League Cup or the FA Cup?
I think it was FA Cup. I'm sure it was FA Cup. Ian Bradley's in the comments, so Ian will tell us, no question about it. But I'm sure it was FA Cup. Beat him 3-1. And all I can remember about that night was we went 1-0 down, and I'm thinking, that's it. Say again?
Arsenal, sorry.
Rotherham, we went 1-0 down. They took the lead, and I just remember thinking, this is going to be a long night. And then the headline on the back of the paper the following day was outgunned. So that was the first time in my lifetime I could remember Rotherham United making the actual back page of a national newspaper. Probably only time since as well. Although we made the front page a few times since, but that's another story, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Matt Little says that was the League Cup in 1978. It's a
League Cup, right.
Chris Nichols also mentions when we beat Arsenal in 1960 at Hillsborough, which I assume would have been a second replay, I assume, back in the days. Chris Nichols on the Southampton game says Gordon Strachan complained about the narrowness of the pitch. Those were the days at Millmoor. That were the type of complaints we used to get. I remember Joe Royal would play Ipswich, not in a cup. He complained about the pitch being too bouncy. The ball bounced too much. Just glory days. Glory days. John Brown says,
how could Gordon Strachan complain about the height, width, or size of anything? He was 2'6". He would have no idea how wide it were. It took him half an hour to walk to the other side anyway.
John Morell says it would need to be the 6th round to count as a good cup run for the championship teams. I'd probably agree with that. Although if we get to 5th round, I'm claiming it, to be honest. It'd be a club record, it'd be a joint club record, so we'd take it.
Yeah.
Sarah,
I think we take a win.
Sorry.
I think we take anything at this rate. I think we take a win in any competition at any rate.
Yeah. Any bit of positivity would be lovely.
Yeah, literally.
Sarah O'Donnell on the Southampton game says that header, wasn't it Richie Barker who was nearly horizontal, pictured putting it heading? Yeah, it were sensational. And John Mullin was one of the most underrated Rotherham players ever for me.
Absolutely.
Wonderful goal. The tragedy is I can't find any highlights of that. We were a match of the day that evening, and I can't find the highlights of that game. I'm sure it's somewhere.
You probably have to pay 30 grand to the BBC to get them out.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
You stole my line there, Danny.
I'll draft an email.
Do you accept buttons and bits of string as payment?
Yeah. Right. Let's move. We'll come back and talk about team news later on, I think, probably. Because we've got other stuff to talk about. Ian Bradley says, regarding the four that have turned the contract extensions down, in his opinion, they would never play for us again. If they don't want to play for us, goodbye, regardless of how good they are or can be. So, Danny, let's summarise the news first of all. That Matt Taylor said that 4 out of the 5 players are essentially not interested in signing at the moment. That's the key phrase from Matt Taylor, at the moment. The one we think he's going to sign is Victor. Again, that's something we'll talk about in a minute. I wonder if Matt Taylor's been a bit clumsy, or maybe he's purposefully said it this way. Because I feel like we all know who these players are, and I feel like he's dropped them in again. Because again, I put myself in their situation like we did on Saturday. If I'm Dan Barlasser, I'm wondering if I was umming and ahhing, I don't think I'd be umming and ahhing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he has put on record that he wants them to make the decision and make the decision quickly, or else they will be gone. Like he has put that on record. And did he say it's a Paul Davison interview or it's in the Advertiser? One of them two. And I think it does actually show that Matt Taylor is actually very cutthroat with how he treats players. Like he'll drop them and play the players that want to be here. So he is very cutthroat in that regard. And to me, it's just like he's just getting through all the nonsense of, what if you don't want to be here? I'm just not going to play you. You know, and for some players, it might give them the kick up the backside that they need to sign the contract or give them the push to look elsewhere. But I think it is a general consensus that we know who the other 4 of the 5 are that haven't signed deals, because there's been a lot of rumblings on Twitter. There's still a bit of a thing whether it's Wes or Victor. The jury's still out on that. But whoever one of those two it is, basically the other 4 have basically just gone, right, either sign the contract or ta-ra. Very, very cutthroat from Matt Taylor. I rate it to a certain point, but at the same time, it's going to give the players' agents a lot of food for thought of, well, if the manager doesn't want to play him, then I'm just going to look elsewhere for him. And, you know, I understand that some of them have been advised to see out the contracts in case they want better stuff in the summer, which is totally within their reason. And again, that's the nature of football. You get a bigger signing on free if you are a free agent. At least I think that's how it works. So, yeah, just very, very cutthroat from Matt Taylor. Like I said, rate it to a certain point, but at the same time, it might be giving the push to some of our best players. But then again, if they don't want to sign the contract, do we want them here? Just having a bit of money when they could go elsewhere and we could bring other people in for more or less or just below their wages who can still do the job. Like, you know, that's the weighing up that you have to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Shelley mentions here we haven't got the squad right now to drop them. That's the issue. Tom and I sort of say, I think he's been clumsy a little bit. All four of those could potentially stay until the end of the season. You know, they're not. We can't just sell them all for now because we've not signed a new contract. Yes, that would be lovely if we got some cash for him. Yeah. I'm surprised he's come out publicly and said what he said. And again, I might be reading too much into it. To be honest with you, I might be being oversensitive. But I don't know if it feels too public to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with Danny in that, the sense that you have to kind of be cutthroat, and I think he is, and it's honesty and it's genuine, and he's trying to get the club to a basis where he's being open and honest. And I think even with his interview after Millwall, I don't know how any of you guys interpreted it, but in my opinion, he kind of just said that some of them weren't good enough. He said that they gave all their effort, but the quality wasn't there, and it won't be there. So he kind of just came out and publicly said, you know, they're not good enough as a squad of players, and that's again cutthroat and ruthless, and kind of the avenue that he's going down, it seems, especially in regards to this. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't think the honesty is good. I think it's good getting it out there and being open and transparent with it. But in terms of, you know, in terms of how he's actually gone about the matter, like you said, we've not got the squad to drop these players. You know, if it is those, well, if it is for any four players, we can't drop any four players in general. Even if they, you know, some of them got injured or whatnot, you know, we can't afford any of that. So to come out and say that, these kind of players will come out and say, well, I'm not playing then. If the manager doesn't want me here, then I won't play. And some of them might, you never know. But yeah, something's got to change though. We gave them a deadline of New Year's and they've still not responded to it. So in his mind, they've gone. I mean, if that's what you guys regard as well, I think that's what my opinion is on the matter, is that he gave them till 2023 essentially. If they've not signed, then essentially they've gone, and all five of them didn't really make up their minds. I know one has now, being Victor or Wes. So we'll have to see. But in my opinion, Taylor going about it in a cutthroat way, I think is good. I actually agree with it. I think he's no nonsense, and I think if you get rid of those players and he brings in his own players, it's always a good sign when the managers mature in the team along with him.
Yeah, John Morrell, if you go through comments, John Morrell says all good wanting rid of them, which is maybe what he's trying to do, but you have to find buyers willing to spend the money on players who could get for free in 6 months' time. That's a big issue. Another issue, Ricky, and this is my thought. Ian Bradley says fans will turn against the players mentioned. I have no doubt. Now, as Matt Taylor will probably say that he hasn't mentioned them because he hasn't, but we know who they are, and we've already seen on social media that people are saying, right, people are taking it that they've already rejected the club and they've already said they're leaving and that they should never play for the football club again. If that's your opinion, that's fine. But Matt Taylor didn't say that. If he kept it more in-house, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I like the cutthroat business, and I think he should be more stern with the players. But I don't like the fact he's quite
there's a definite swings and roundabouts to that argument, Matt. Like we have called for more transparency and a little bit more knowledge from the club itself as to what's happening. But I think going back to my sledgehammer to a brick wall thing, we've asked for it, and now we've got it. But it's in such a stern and cutthroat manner that it's like, whoa, hang on, are we sure this is the right thing? I mean, I've already given my 2 cents on it, but it's definitely a swings and roundabouts situation, isn't it? But I do think that even though Matt Taylor said if the players that don't want to be here will be dropped, I think that's more of I will stop you playing as much, but it would be silly to assume that a qualified professional football manager would completely drop players just for not signing a contract. They will still play a part, but it'll just be at a reduced capacity. You know, for example, if one of the players who plays on the right side hasn't signed his contract, then he will be put on the bench for another player that's here, or a player that we've brought in. So he would still be a part of that team and there as backup, but he might just not be in the starting 11 as much. So I think the whole thing of, I'm going to drop you is more threat with the basis of intention rather than him saying something and then just completely going to the extreme and acting on it where they're not in the match 18.
Yeah. Adam Harker says the alternative approach was soft. Look what happened to Smith and Icky. Ian Bradley prefers the cutthroat approach. He says the same. Wouldn't have it with Icky and Smudge. I mean, my point, Mick, would be that I'm not saying he's going about it the wrong way in terms of trying to deal with the players in a sort of aggressive way. And I agree that we want information, but he could have given us that information. If like I say, it feels to me as he's thrown players under the bus a little bit. He could have said what he said without doing that.
Yeah. I mean, you summed it up to start with, didn't you? Another clumsy interview, and that's exactly what it is. He's not considering the words that he's using. He's not aware of the consequences of what he's saying, because the consequences are what you've said precisely there, and what Ian said. It'll all blow up on social media. Players will start getting what's the right word? Verbally attacked, abused, or whatever on social media, and it just creates more and more negativity around the club. And throughout the fan base, and it's just unnecessary. It's utterly unnecessary. We don't need to make a comment other than one's close to signing, four we're not there yet. That's it. We don't need any more than that. But we seem to have this dig. There seems to be this quiet little dig in everything aimed towards the players that he's expecting to turn out on Saturday to represent this club and to represent him and to put into practice what he's telling them, despite the fact in public he's telling everybody that they're crap. It's just, it's absolute amateurish PR. It really is, in my view. It's only my opinion, obviously. I'm saying that as if it's a fact. In my view, it's absolute amateurish. And it causes more problems than it actually fixes. Yeah, we want transparency. Yeah, that's great. But do we need to know the nuts and bolts of every single contract offer? What's on the table? How much is going to get paid? What are we offering and why are we offering him? Because all it does is create more and more speculation, more and more bad feeling when it doesn't go our way. And it's unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary in my view. I just find it. I'm really disappointed. I am so disappointed at the post-Millwall interview, and then again another one today where what he's saying, the words he's using are really, really important, because it's those few words, those few sound bites that we get from Paul Davis or from Radio Sheffield are the ones that we've got. And it might just be one sentence and it gets analysed to death on social media. And human nature is that the negativity will be pulled out of it and exploited. And that's exactly what's happening. If Dan Barlasser, Wes Harding and Chio Ogbene do go in this transfer window, we need to be thankful for them, for what they've done for this football club.
100%.
We do not want to be in a situation where the management team are creating an environment, whether, albeit not intentionally, I'm not saying it's an intentional thing, but they're creating an environment where the fans are going to turn on these players. It's ridiculous. Honestly, it is. I don't like it at all, and I find it really difficult to get my head around why it's happening. I don't understand it. We've gone from where we were before World Cup to where we are now. It's just it's a car crash. It really is. And the fans are making it worse. And I understand why. Not the fans. The sort of social media bandwagon just makes it worse. It's horrible.
It'd be interesting to not that we're going to get this, of course, but it would be very interesting to see what is on record and what's off record when talking to Matt Taylor, because the on record stuff it is obviously what we're seeing on social media, and it does seem that some aspects of it are, like we've said, very cutthroat, and like with the Millwall interview, very much an under the bus sort of statement. But for all we know, he's out of I forgot my line of thought there. That's very embarrassing. His off-record stuff. That's what I was trying to think. His off-record stuff could be saying, "Yeah, I've done that for this, that, and other reason," but you can't tell anybody that. So, and as fans, we will always have that disconnect with the football club of what's on record and what's off record, because that's just the way of the world. You're not going to go, right, here's the exact contract we're going to offer Dan Barlasser. Oh, look, Middlesbrough have come and offered 2p more and they've got it, because that'd be absolutely senseless. But I do agree with what you're saying, Mick. The last few interviews have been very, very rough to listen to. But for me and probably for Tom as well, you look at it and just go, so what's he saying behind the scenes?
If that's what he's saying in public.
If that's what he's saying in public, what's he saying behind the scenes? If that's on record, then what's off record?
Well, if that's the case, Danny, if you take that a couple of steps further, that gives you an explanation why we're doing so badly on the pitch.
Potentially, yeah.
There's no potentially about it. Can you imagine no, you think about it, because the words he's using and the sort of atmosphere that he's creating is quite toxic. He's turning players against each other. Not specifically saying he's better than you, but some are better than others, and so on and so forth. It's just creating a toxic atmosphere. It is not an environment where you would want to work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It just gets through. It goes through everything. It goes through the squad like a dose of salts. There's ways and means of dealing with people and explaining to them that you don't think they're good enough, but you don't do it in public, like we've just said.
So let me ask you a question that many things like we know how well the previous manager spoke in public, and we know that the atmosphere he built up. Is it because we're going from that extreme to this? Is this relative? No. The question is this relatively normal for this level of football? But it's so different to what we've experienced before.
Well, it's not, is it? And we've had Steve Evans, for God's sake.
That's true. But Steve, how often did he slam his players in public? He was amazing at not throwing his players under the bus in public. No. I mean, we know the stories from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Publicly, the fans were never wrong in his eyes. The players were almost never wrong in his eyes in public.
Yeah.
Whereas Matt Taylor is very different to that. It feels more same in private, almost same in public. Which I don't know. Is it better? Is it worse? I don't know. I'm not a fan, but
yeah, I mean, we'll see, won't we? We'll see whether performances pick up.
Yeah. Tom, I'll give you this one. What would your reaction be if the contracts were left to run down, they go on a free, and nothing was said publicly that contracts had been offered before Christmas? And that's the other side of things. Like we are asking for transparency. I think it's just gone a bit far, probably.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, he said that he's given everyone a contract. He's given them until 2023. So, I mean, in that regard, he didn't even need to say anything. Like you said, Mick, he kind of just needed to say, well, what you said is that one of them is likely to sign, the other four we're still working on. And then that was that. But maybe that's not his management style. The previous manager was a different management style. It's different for different managers. Would Mourinho do this? Probably. Would Guardiola? Probably not. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying, in regards to different management styles. But in terms of that question, I mean, yeah, if they let their contract run down, but they play every minute and they play to the standard that we know that they can play at, sure, do it. Personally, I think that I hate seeing players go on a free. I think that it's always upsetting when you know you can get a fee for them and kind of rebuild from that. But in regards to the rest of the season and what we need these 4 key players. Well, 3 if you count Wiles' injury being a long term, which it looks like it is. Then we kind of need these 3 key players, and then let the contracts run down, let them go for a free. If they can manage to not even just play to the standard that we know they can, and we probably will be all right in this league. We've shown that we can be all right in this league when we play to a good standard that we know we can. Personally, I have no idea how we set that standard because we look miles off it and look like we've no idea how to get back to it. But yeah, in regards to that, I'd let them run down their contracts and wouldn't be too fussed.
Yeah, if it helps, I agree. Yeah. Let's go through some comments because, as you can imagine, there are a lot on this subject. Let's have a look what we've got.
The screen has not stopped moving the whole time we've been talking. It's like being on Twitch. It's mint, this.
Emily Green says, is he cutting his nose off his smarty face, which I think is a key one. Mark Gamble says he's wrecking the confidence as a squad to satisfy his own needs. Mark Gamble says that's reckless. Phil Ox says the manager must be supported. Once you have player power, you will soon lose the dressing room, which is also true. John Morell, the sort of neutral mind here, the Birmingham fan, says reading between the lines, he is clearly trying to push them out of the door this window, and hopefully raise funds to get some replacement, and that's the way that he is reading it. Possibly.
That's fine, and I agree with John there. I think that's probably what he's, using your word again, Matt, is clumsily trying to do. But you don't need to do it in public. It's unnecessary because those players have still got to play on Saturday, and if they're not gone before we play Blackburn, they've got to play then as well because we haven't got anybody else to play. You're just creating a rod for your own back, is what you're doing. So do it in private. Don't do it in public.
And I come back to what you said earlier, Nick. When Dan Barlaser leaves, which he obviously will, we want to be remembering him for the great things he's done. And if we play that in public, we're not having this conversation. Nobody's saying get rid of him because you don't want to play. And that's not the case. We know that. We know how much Dan likes being here, has enjoyed his time. I'm sure he's exactly the same. It's essentially questioning their commitment to the club. Essentially,
that's precisely what's being said. Get rid of them if they don't want to play, and consequently, what happens is then they go under a cloud essentially. Yeah, and you know, it's anyway. We could talk this to death, couldn't we? I suppose, but
purposes in a row. Moving on from that one. Let's talk transfer rumours and tick off what's. Well, I don't think anything's true so far. Connor Wickham apparently is not true. Who else is not true? Go on, shout me some names that turns out.
John Russell, he said that he went on to praise him, but didn't really say that there was any interest there, or that there was no contact. I didn't think.
Shall I get Twitter up and have a look? So there were 4 or 5 names, weren't there? That were.
Apparently, Messi's not true either.
Is he not? I thought he was just still not back from World Cup yet, and we were waiting to find out.
What's the latest on that Northern Irish striker? Was he? No one.
He's not a name that's been mentioned. So that tells you something.
Yeah, keeping it under wraps, kind of thing.
Connor Wickham and John Russell are basically essentially a no-go. John Russell maybe not a dead no, but we'll see on that one. Carl Scott says I haven't listed the full but Carl Scott says Lee Bonnish says no truth according to the manager, which is fine. Phil Ox says Macaulay Bonne would be a decent shout. He's been released from QPR.
There's lots that are looking to be released.
There's been a lot of movement inside 5 days. There's been loads of movement.
Benica Phobe's just been released. He was always up there when he was young. Oh, is he? No, in that case, never mind. We can't afford that. Stoke players are looking to leave, aren't they? A couple Stoke players are looking. No, Nick Powell, Josh Lauren, Aidan.
Yeah, Stoke are shipping a few, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we're interested in any of them because we probably aren't, but they're all decent free agents that have championship experience, and they're the probably level that we're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting to keep in mind.
The thing is, this time of year, Danny, is we on social media start making deals up. That guy who's gone back to Swansea, we've all decided we're going to swap him for Chio, like Morgan Whittaker or whatever it's called. That's it. It's a done deal because we've all decided it makes sense. But there's nothing really to report, I suppose, on the transfer news, is it? 5 days in. No,
not really. Other than people comparing us to other clubs doing the business sort of thing. I mean, I look at it in the way that the players that we're looking at early on in the season aren't the same players that we're looking at since Matt Taylor's come in. So I can understand a little bit of a delay this season. And he has said that we are looking at targets, and the first one is hopefully going to be in before the next championship game. But yeah, Twitter's marvellous. You just see deals appear out of nowhere. I thought we were going to sign Ronaldo, but he's gone to that team that's in Saudi Arabia that I think's real. Yeah.
That was a funny unveiling.
Mick enjoyed that one. Shelley RC says Charlie Austin was one that got away. I was baffled me we never inquired him. Possibly begun to Swindon, and that's all I'll say. If only Swindon wanted to pick him up, he's probably not good enough for the Championship. That's how I read it. Anyway, he may score 35 goals between now and May. I may be proved wrong, but that's how I see it. Ian Bradley says Aidan Flint, he'd be decent. Yeah, he would. Good, very good, very tall defender. But hit and miss. It were terrible for Piggies, weren't he? In that when they got relegated for a period. And Sturridge and also the Stoke players that we've mentioned, they will be on potentially huge money.
Yeah, they
which
will.
is true.
Have you seen the way Stoke players play? We've played them twice this season. You'll be. I tell you what, Danny. If we sign anybody from Stoke, where you sit, you need to move. I'm sure there'll be some proper danger there, mate.
Oh, it's going to be like a Tom and Jerry episode, isn't it? If we sign someone from Stoke, straight between the eyes.
Yeah. The Dan Barlaser link to Middlesbrough has not really gone away. The last rumour I heard was that they were interested and that somehow the deal will be organised so that the sell-on clause does not take effect. Now, I don't know how that works. I've seen a couple of people mention that on social media. I don't know exactly how we would get around that.
I mean, the only way that comes to my head is a swap deal and then Middlesbrough topping up a bit of money. So we've not actually sold him to them. It's a swap deal plus cash. Yeah. Like that's the only way I can think round it. Or he's going for free, but because he's still under contract, that's not going to be the case. And I think they are the only two ways round a sell-on clause. If we can get round the sell-on clause, then great. You know, because 40% is a lot. And the quota figure is about 500k into it. So if Middlesbrough were to pay us 500k just for Barlaser, we'd only get 300k out of that deal, which means we'd lose money off whatever the rumoured. I think the rumoured figure we paid for Barlaser is about 350. Yeah. So we'd lose money on one of our best players over the last few years. So it has to get rid of that sell-on clause, and I pray that it does. If not, oh dear. Can you imagine? There'll be torches and pitchforks at midnight. 500k for him. I can't compute it. It just that'll be worse than Matt Crooks going for 1.5 million. Like
he didn't go for that.
Didn't he?
He went for 750.
Oh, it'll be even more criminal then. Like
there might have been sell-ons with that one actually. There might have been extras, but I think it was 750 base. Yeah.
Cool. Good grief.
Yeah. Anyway, these are rumours which mix loves, as we all know. Paul Brock says Giovanni Brown thought Taylor's interested in him. I think Paul that'll be probably a summer move. If Matt Taylor's still here in the summer, which I hope he is, that will be a summer move for him. Hopefully. John Hensby, a great shout. The Barlaser could be a loan with the big loan fee. That's interesting. Could be a way around it. And Mick, have you anything to add on that?
No.
Perfect.
No. I mean, they're all rumours, aren't they? So we don't know. You don't know what's been going off behind the scene. I'm assuming, according to what the consensus seems to be, that Rob Scott sat up with his feet on desk, sipping champagne, not doing reading newspaper, and has been since Matt Taylor took over. So I think he's hoping somebody's going to give him a nudge back end of January and tell him transfer window's open. So I mean, we don't know what's happening, and all we're doing is speculating. It's pointless. It does the same thing again, doesn't it? It just winds everybody up. one person says something, then it winds somebody else up, then somebody else says something else, and we just keep adding to it till all of a sudden, nobody's doing out about anything and nobody cares kind of scenario. I don't get it. I don't understand. Leave the people who know what they're doing to do what they do. And when we get some players, we'll get some players. If we don't get any players, we won't get any players. It is what it is. Just let the people who know what they're doing do it.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, as I've already mentioned, that the business so far for not just the league, the entire pyramid so far has been much, much quicker than I think anybody anticipated. And we're, at the moment, in public, we're standing still. Now, behind the scenes, I'm sure we're not. I'm sure Rob Scott's doing his job, and because he's a professional. It's just the concern of everybody else doing their business early. The good thing is making another league game for 10 days, whatever it is now. That's the bonus in it. We got a bit of time.
Yeah. Can I ask a question there then, Matt? You're saying other people doing their business early. How do we know that it's any different to any other January? See, until you actually go back and analyse it, how can you tell whether more Championship clubs this season have signed players in the first week of January than they did last year or the year before? Why? How do we know it's any different?
I don't know. I haven't researched it. It does feel different.
No, but that's my point. That's exactly my point. What we're saying here is, there's loads of other Championship clubs who are digging their hands in their pockets and buying players. Well, is it any more than normal? But the implication is it's more than normal. Everybody else is on it and we're not. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily. I don't know. I just find it all these comments that we see on social media and everywhere else, they're all taken out of context, aren't they? Or the any sort of context is removed out of it. Just, we've not signed nobody yet. We're crap. That's essentially what's said, isn't it? Here we go again. We haven't signed anybody. Our recruitment team's crap. Tony Stewart won't buy anybody. Blah, 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 blah. Every single transfer window. It's tedious for me.
Yeah. John Morell says, from a Birmingham point of view, the Blues normally leave it till the last week in January, but they've signed a free transfer tonight already. That's how it feels. The loan market seems to have blown up early. Again, I might be wrong, but it feels early for all that. Anyway, let's leave it because we don't have any more. To be honest with you, we don't have any more rumours to talk about. So now we're going to do the scouting report and find out a bit more about Ipswich Town. I spoke to Roscoe from the Kings of Anglia podcast yesterday, and you're going to hear that chat now. We'll see you in a moment.
Which button is it?
I'm very well, my friend. Thanks for having me. I'm from the Kings of Anglia podcast. Also the East Anglian Daily Times newspaper and website. Coda, it's just home and away. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. A pleasure. So first question is, when the draw got pulled out, how far off was this being the worst draw you could possibly have? Because I think it may have been the worst one for us.
Yeah, to put it bluntly, I wasn't happy, to be honest. No offense to you guys. I don't mind going to Rotherham, but frankly, it's a home anyway. But the thing, we were like the last four in the hat, and there was Man United and Everton there, and you thought, surely, but no, we get you at home. At least it's a home tie. But yeah, it probably could be. There's other ones out there. There's Accrington away. There's Hartlepool away. So there could be the worst of the worst. But sadly, because we played you guys a lot in League One, it's sort of like really, because we haven't reached the third round for a while since we've been in League One. So to get you in the hat, it was great. But here we are.
Yeah. I know our record is obviously much worse than yours, but your FA Cup record is not far off as bad as ours. Was it in 2009 you were last made it past this round?
Yeah, it's been a while, and to think since we've been in League One, we've had replays. We lost against Barrow last year in a replay, so it's not great, the FA Cup. And finally, this time we have got to the third round, but we have beat non-league teams in Bracknell Town and Buxton, so we've had an easy route. Now we've got you guys in the third round, so we shall see if we can progress.
On more positives, your season's been very, very good. Kieran McKenna obviously took over late last season, seems to have stamped his mark on the team. Does it feel like, I know it's only January, but does it feel like this is the season where it's going to finally happen, or is it too early to say?
It has to be the season, to be honest. It has to be. This is our best start to a season. Like the first season back in League One, back in the 2019, we had a fantastic start. We weren't winning comfortably. It was 1-0 wins here and there, which, League One for you guys, sometimes that's what you got to do to get out, League One. It's a hard division to get out of. But this year it feels different. We're getting some great wins. We're beating teams we normally don't win. Not beating the newly promoted teams. We've got some bogey teams like Accrington. We finally beat them away from home. It does feel different, and the players, they're playing better than they were last year. There's some players who have really stepped up. So hopefully this is the year, Matt. Hopefully this is the year.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see you again next year at Championship.
Yes,
I'll wait and see on that one.
Please.
We'll come into some more of your players and who to look out for, but there's only one place to start when we're looking at your players, and that's Mr. Ladapo. Mm-hmm. First of all, how's he done? I've seen, was it 10 goals so far this season? So it's a pretty good return so far.
Not a bad return. I think 7 of them is in League One. He's got a brace against Port Vale, and he's a bit Marmite, but I think he's another one that I think fans do love him because he's a smiley character. I'm sure, like you guys, he's a character, and he's always got a smile on his face. But he has moments where you think, "Oh, should we score him from there?" And I remember speaking to you when he signs, and once again you were sort of saying he is a good player, but he does have moments where you think, "Oh, we should be scoring from there." But I'm pretty happy with him, to be fair. I think he's a good player for this division. He scored goals for you guys, and for him, I'm sure he'll be gagging to play against you guys to maybe prove a point, maybe. But yeah, I think a good goal return at the moment, and it is a position we want to strengthen in. But I've been pretty happy with him so far.
Yeah, well, I haven't checked the odds yet, but I'll be putting some money on Freddie to score on Saturday. Yeah. It's almost nailed on, and to give it the old ears to the Rotherham fans as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a shame how it ended with Freddie. I think a lot of the fans have great memories of Freddie, but just how it ended were a disaster. You've also got other former Dominic Ball. He's not played that much. How's he doing? He barely played for us, to be honest. But
he's out for the season. He's injured. He's crocked. Sadly, yeah. Once again, a cracking signing. To sign him on a free transfer from QPR. Championship. Regular for them. But yeah, unfortunately, he had a niggle in pre-season. He's played, I think, 8 games in total. But sadly, it sounds like he's got a season-ending injury. I think he's had surgery. So yeah, won't be playing. But he's another good player. But yeah, sadly, got injured at the wrong time, really.
Fair enough. Talking about a couple of other players, we should mention the symmetry of Cameron Humphreys coming up against Cameron Humphreys. That's a great bit of symmetry, as we like on our podcast.
Yeah, well, once again, doing the research and seeing Cameron Humphreys. To be fair, if you search Cameron Humphreys, the Rotherham one always appears first, which sometimes can be annoying if I'm trying to find stats and I've gone on Cameron Humphreys' Wikipedia page. Oh no, it's the Rotherham one. But yeah, our one is a bit younger. He's one of our players who's come through our youth academy, and he's really stepped up this season because he got labelled the second best midfielder at the football club by Kieran Dyer, who was a coach and, of course, a former Premier League player, England player. And that's a lot of pressure on a young man's shoulders. But yeah, stepped up. We've had injuries with Lee Evans, who's one of our midfielders. He got an injury, Dominic Bald as well. But he's really stepped up, Cameron Humphreys, and I have a feeling he'll probably start as well because it's a cup game. You always play some youngsters, but he's definitely now a senior player. Kieran McKenna has said he is now part of the senior squad. He's not like one of these youth players coming through. He's now a senior player. So, yeah, player to look out for also as well.
I suppose this question Matt will be able to answer, but how serious do you think it's going to be taken? Obviously, when you don't get a big team, it's quite easy for clubs like ours to sort of not take it seriously, make 4 or 5 changes. And if you win, you win. Is that how you feel it's going to be for you guys on Saturday?
I think so. I think Kieran McKenna, he's tried his best to take a lot of the cup competition seriously. In recent years, I think a lot of managers like Paul Lambert, Paul Cook, Paul Cook got sacked because we drew 0-0 against Barrow, and of course we then lost in a replay against Barrow. So, but he put a strong team out for that game. So we've had 2 very easy draws against Buxton and Bracknell. So, and we've put strong lineups against them. Even though they're non-league clubs, we still put strong lineups on. So I think we will be taking it seriously because once again, to progress to the 4th round will be another record after many, many years. And also you've got an opportunity to get a Premier League club, hopefully, but we'll probably likely get whoever gets through to the 4th round in the Championship / League One, we'll probably get another League One team who progress. So yeah, but I think they'll take it seriously, hopefully.
I suppose on last point maybe is that last season we played QPR and it felt like at the time it's a good measuring stick. We played QPR and pushed them all the way, lost on penalties. Does it feel like maybe you guys, right? I know we're a struggling League One, the Championship team at the minute, but if you can put a strong team out and we put a strong team out and you put us to sword, that must be great for the players and the fans, right? Well, we can do these if we can make the step up, we can match them.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was maybe the one highlight of the draw. Really, is like this is an opportunity. Actually, sorry, Rotherham fans. I like Rotherham, but we know that we know that it's just Rotherham. It's just like we don't really want to play each other again, do we? Again, in the FA Cup tie. But I think there's an opportunity. It's like they're a Championship team. We've got Championship players. This is a great test now. Not the draw we wanted. Everyone wants a Premier League team, don't they? Home or away. But this, as you said, a measuring stick was like how we're actually improved and a nice challenge against maybe you guys are struggling at the moment, but it's still a good test. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And finally, let's have a prediction, if we can, for you, how's Saturday going to play out?
Goalless draw, replay. See you Rotherham. No, I'm joking. That is the worst case scenario for all of us. To all the Rotherham fans travelling down, you just don't want to see a draw, and I'm sure Town fans don't want to see a replay either. I've got to go for a Town win, and I know I'm on a Rotherham podcast, but a Town win, I think won't be a great game. I don't think. Maybe a 1-0, just scrappy game, 1-0, and then we're finally through. Hopefully.
I probably agree with you, honest. That's where we are at the minute. Thank you for doing this. Just give everybody else one last plug for if they want to find any Ipswich stuff prior to the game.
Yeah, check out Kings of Anglia on our YouTube channel, our podcast, and watch my chat with Matt on Rotherham. So if you want some insight on Rotherham about the game, I'm sure you get a lot of great insight already on this podcast, but go over to that video. I look forward to it. Cheers, man.
Yeah, you let me know how I did, Rotherham fans. Yes. Thank you very much, Roscoe.
Cheers, man.
Thank you, Roscoe, for doing that. I really enjoy speaking to Roscoe every time I do speak to him, so thank you very much to him for that. Interesting bits on there. Cool bits of life. I've just been sent a tweet by Scotty on Twitter on the Lee Bonnis transfer talk. It's essentially not on. The manager of Milan has basically a paper talk. He spoke to the player, spoke to the player's agent, and there's been no talk. So that's not happening. If it is happening, it's not happening yet. So just thought I'd let you all know on that one.
If they want to offer me a contract, I've got my boots and my shinnies under the table, so I can be down at training on Monday if they need.
They won't cost 300k to transfer for either, would it? So what I mean?
No. I mean, all they'd have to do is pay off my student loan and debts to Chef Allen, and I'd be sorted. So about what a 60k signing on fee. That'll do.
Carl Scott says George Hurst could be lined up against Freddie at the weekend. Yeah, George Hurst's loan at Blackburn is looking like being cut short, and then he's going to Ipswich. I don't think we're done before the weekend, although it could. We don't know. And Shelley RUC points out Massimo Luongo has just signed for Ipswich this evening. That's almost breaking news. So that's a good signing for League One. Might not play on Saturday again because he's only just signed, but let's wait and see. And we should point out, as Ian Bradley says, a massive Ipswich pricing structure for the cup tie. I think it's £10 for adults. I think it's £5 for kids, something like that. I mean, there's not many people will still go, but it is still a very, very good. Let's talk about team lineups, Danny. Then we can coincide that by talking about Victor Johansson. Victor Johansson's going to start in goal. We are all assuming every point we have is that he is the man who has signed the contract. We don't have length or details or anything like that, but looks like Victor's the man that's signing on. You'd assume it's for at minimum couple of years. Let's assume minimum couple of years. That's great news. Amongst all the bad news and amongst all the transfer nonsense, that is really good news if we can sign Victor on at least a couple of years.
Yeah, it is. And I think it also shows how happy Victor is and how committed he is to us as well, because he is a goalkeeper that is going to be moving up the ladder because we've seen what he's capable of at this club. So, to have him for probably, like I said, probably bare minimum, might be 2.5 years because he signed it in around January, so it could be 2.5 years. But so that's really good. If it is Victor, and all the rumblings on social media are suggesting that it is Victor more than Wes. So I'm happy. it's quite good for me because I got our last assigned Victor shirt for a birthday. So yeah, thank you, Victor. But at the same time, I'd also like to thank thank my lass for getting in Matt Taylor's ear at the fan forum and going, offer Victor that new contract.
Farmer Newcastle, it's taken a while to announce, though. Yeah, Matt Taylor mentioned today there's some agents issues and things such as that. Apparently, he used the phrase, he made himself look a bit of a pillock by saying that.
Yeah.
It's funny. You've got to be careful what you say sometimes, don't you? That's all I'd say to him if I felt some advice going forward. Tom, let's talk about defensive structure and players. It's been a week, so we assume that means Richard Wood can play. If we're allowed to play, you'd assume no injuries, as long as there's no injuries permitting. What would you do there? Would you be tempted to change something up? Peltier, it sounds like he'll be back fit. Matt Taylor did like playing Peltier prior to his injury, so what do you expect in that back three?
I mean, that's where the issue lies, isn't it? There's the defense. Well, that and many other places. Would we be opposed to going to a back four? Would that be a shout? Just trying something different? I don't know. Would he want to try something different and go to a back four? Maybe play Wes at right back, Ferguson left back. I don't know. Personally, I think he's going to go with I assume he's going to go with a back three of maybe Wood. I've not really thought about it, actually. Wood, maybe McCart will probably get a game because he doesn't really get one. So McCart will probably step in. Wood will probably step in. Could be looking at getting Kioso back with some game time at right wing back. Again, you're looking at Ferguson left wing back just to get some minutes in him as well. And then that leaves the last spot at centre back, and that's probably be filled by Humphreys, I'm assuming, or Peltier. But yeah, I think the definites for that game are probably Kioso will try and give him minutes. Then you've got Cuffy as well. God knows.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'd personally say Kioso, probably McCart and Wood are probably the definites. And then he might play Cuffy left wing back and anyone really in that last centre back role. For me, I don't really. I think the defence needs a proper rejig, and I don't think we have the capabilities to do that just yet. So, whatever back 3, 5, 7 he goes for, it's not gonna. Let's hope it does something, because it's been appalling the last couple of games. Genuinely appalling non-league stuff. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, as Donna says, is Hall back? No, he's training on grass, but not back with the main group, as Matt Taylor puts it. So I assume that's at least a couple of weeks away with our non-professional heads on, but we don't know. But yeah, he's not back, unfortunately. Shelley RFC says a cut would be nice, but would you like to see the likes of Jake Hull get in there, mix it up a little bit? Certainly something to be interested in, but it's one of those things that you say that, and then when we lose 4-0, we're all saying, "Oh, why did you play him?" It's a Saturday's almost a no-win situation for Matt Taylor. To give him a bit of a break, it's a no-win situation. If we win 1-0 or 2-0, we're all going, "Yeah, you should have won anyway." If we lose 2-0, you're going, "We've lost to a League One team. What are you doing?" It's a bit of a crappy situation we're in, really. But that's the FA Cup. Well,
we've put ourselves in that position, haven't we? If we were on a decent run at league, then that wouldn't be an issue. So I don't know. It's going to be difficult. There will be some changes. Obviously, there has to be some changes. Just based purely, forget it's an FA Cup game, but based purely on the performances of the last 2 or 3 games, there has to be changes, because it's just not working. Whether that's changing in personnel or the way that we're playing, I don't know. But it'll be a change in personnel. It won't be the change in the way we're playing, won't it? So. I think Jake Hull is a good shout. Jim McCart's a good shout. Them two either side of Woody, perhaps at the back. In midfield, you're struggling a little bit if Barlasser is on his way out, as some people would say. Then Hakeem Adoffin will fit in there. Then you've got Jamie Lindsay and Ollie Rathbone to create no creativity at all in that midfield area. Don't know. We'll see. Difficult one, isn't it? But you're right. It is a no-win situation for us.
Steve Adams says Jake Hull is cup tied. I'm going to have to check that, because I think he played in the qualifying rounds, which I don't think makes him cup tied. I think I'm not certain, but I don't think the qualifying round count for that. But I'll check that when we finish. I'll see if I can find anything, to be honest. John Morrell says, I'd happily take as a Birmingham fan, happily take a 3-0 loss to Forest Green if it meant no more injuries. Worst case scenario, Danny, is a draw, because then there are replays. This is not like last season, which extra time penalties. We do have FA Cup replays, so in 10 days' time, we'd have to do this all over again when we really don't want to. So worst case scenario is, what would you take? I'm going to give you an offer. Would you take a 4-0 loss or a 1-1? A 0-0. I think you're 0-0 because it'd be boring, more boring.
Wow, that's got the cogs turning. I mean, if we with the oh god, I'm thinking so hard I can't talk. With the 4-0, that would go to show how vastly we've stepped backwards, losing 4-0 to a team that more or less competes with us every time we're in League One. So, if I'm being honest, I would take a 0-0 purely because it shows the rot isn't as bad as we think it is.
True.
And then we go back to New York and hopefully we beat them 1-0. But we do have quite a good record at Portman Road, even when we've not took many fans there. Because I think we took about 250, 300 last time. Yeah, the vlog is out on the channel, by the way, if you want to go and see Ben Wiles score a screamer. So we do have a good record at Portman Road, but again, cup game form goes out at window. But out of them two options you're giving me, Matt, I'd definitely take the 0-0.
Fair enough. What would probably happen is we draw 0-0, we draw Spurs away, and then lose. That'd be very Rotherham United to do that, to be honest with you. Chio should be back fit, or more or less back fit. Would you play him, Tom? It's a cup game again. It may or may not be off in this window. Do you just chuck him back in anyway because it's a game he needs to play in?
I mean, we don't really have any other strikers, do we? So in terms of necessity, you kind of need to play him. He played a Dauphin up there against Millwall, didn't he? And that was
almost, yeah,
more or less. Well, I mean, I thought he did okay considering he's a holding midfielder. He basically put him next to Washington. I thought he put himself about, which is, more to say than anyway. I just think in terms of general necessity, you kind of do need to play him, don't you? Because we literally do not have anyone else up there. I mean, he was playing Lindsay up there maybe against Millwall. I couldn't tell. I watched the whole game, could not tell you who was playing up front with Washington. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd play him. I would play him just because pure necessity in that he can play striker. I still don't think striker is his best position. I think on the wing when he isolates someone one-on-one is his best position. But in terms of necessity, I'd play him up front, even if he is only getting back to fitness.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing Wash and Shield back up top together, but we'll wait and see. Ian Bradley says Curtis DeRose is doing bits at Gainsborough, worth a recall for lack of bodies. To be honest with you, I'm surprised he's not been called back. I'm surprised McGuckin's not been called back based on the lack of bodies we've got. They played non-league, so it doesn't limit them to playing for another, as far away, it doesn't limit them to playing for another couple of teams this season. I don't really see the harm in that based on the situation that we're in. But we'll see. Well, we'll not see. We know that's not going to happen, but that's where we are. Mick, any other selection topics, headaches? There's no injuries, I don't think.
Not really. I agree with what Shelley's put there. I think Brook Norton-Cuffy should be playing. I fail to see any reason why he's not been playing. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. None at all. But yeah, I think he should be playing. Chio, I would definitely play Chio without a shadow of a doubt, particularly if he's going. Because if he gets injured,
play him, scores the winner, leaves on a high. Perfect.
Yeah. And if he gets injured, it doesn't matter because he'll be going. So, yeah. Well, there we go.
We'll see. Mike the Miller on the cup tie situation. So just read on the website, FA website, that a player is unable to play for another club in the FA Cup if they have played any rounds of the competition, which we presume means the qualifying rounds. So Jake Hill sounds like he is cup tied, which is a shame for Jake Hull. that's where we are. Let's do some predictions. Mick, what do you reckon?
I was going to go the same as Roscoe, but I'm going to go for a 0-0. I'm going to go for 0-0 and a replay.
Okay.
Which we'll lose. Probably. That seems to be the way we approach the FA Cup.
Yeah, it does. As Ian Bradley's put here, it's happened before about the drawing a big team in the fourth round, losing the replay. Yeah, we Man U in 2004 or 2003. We drew with Northampton, got a replay, drew Man U at home, and then lost to Northampton, who were 2 divisions below us.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you reckon for Saturday?
You know what? I'm going to go positive. I'm going to say we win 2-1. May as well. Got nothing to lose.
I like it. Danny?
I'll keep it positive. I'm going to say Rotherham's going to win 1-0.
Clean sheet, Danny?
Yeah.
Not that positive.
Yeah.
I'm not that positive yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not. I've won 2-0. 2-0 to Ipswich. Yeah. They're doing it. They're having a great season. I think it's just going to continue, unfortunately. Donna says 1-0. It's going to bring positivity. I'd take that. Gerald Emerson says 2-1 to us. She says Ogbene in Washington and Ladapo for them. Adam Hardcastle says 2-2. Ladapo to score all 4.
That would be a very big pub quiz thing in a few years, that wouldn't it?
Like it. Harley Kelly says 2-1. Palmed says 1-1. Jamie says 2-0 to the Millers. Philox says 1-0. Can hardly fashion a chance. Never mind a goal. Yeah. The hope is that they don't take it seriously because it's a distraction for their crucial promotion campaign. For a team like Ipswich, we're still down there for them. This season's crucial for them, isn't it? So let's hope they rest all their players. Shelley FC says, let's be positive. Win and good money in the next round. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Ian Bradley with the positivity as always. Wait until we're 2-0 down after 15 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Ian, stranger things have happened in the FA Cup. We were 3-0 down to Solihull on 75 minutes and still won for some reason. So, you never know.
The sad thing is, I agree with Ian. I could see that happening.
And then we still somehow win 3-2 because the FA Cup works in mysterious ways.
I couldn't see that. No, I couldn't see that. There we go. I think we've covered a lot tonight. We'll cover some more on next episode because there's plenty to talk about Rotherham United at the minute. Not all positive, unfortunately. But this is where we are in the life of Rotherham United. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Please do subscribe if you haven't done already. If you're watching and not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go over there, click subscribe. It's jumped up massively since last episode and the episode before that as well. So thank you very much. You all right, Mick?
Yeah, I'm just thinking if we carry on losing, we'll end up with 2,000 subscribers.
I said this before. We need for our subscribership, we need a change in manager. It'd be great.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. But yeah, don't do that. Don't Rotherham. If you're listening on the audio, iTunes, Spotify, please subscribe where you are and give us a 5-star rating if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much because we very much appreciate it. We've got like 50, 60 5-star ratings across Apple and Spotify. So thank you everyone that's done that so far. We will be back on Sunday evening live on the YouTube, which will be a preview of Ipswich Town. Hopefully a confirmation of contract, whoever that may be. And then also maybe a transfer. Who knows? Probably not. We'll have under the post-match interview from Matt Taylor to talk about, which may be more interesting than the game. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Danny, it's been a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on Sunday evening.
Yep, always a pleasure, lads. Hope you all have a good weekend. I will be at home.
Yeah, Tom, pleasure to have you back with us, mate. Next time, hopefully, it's on more positive. Have you seen us win yet? We're doing this podcast. You haven't, have you?
No, actually, yeah. You may have to stop inviting me back.
Yeah, you sucked.
It seems to be a bad luck aura around.
Thank you for speaking to us tonight, Tom. I loved it, mate. And Vic, as always, no Mick Rant today, so apologies to all you Mick Rant fans out there. Sure. Well, I thought there was a little bit. Anyway. Thank you. Anyway.
It wasn't 4 minutes, though, was it, Matt?
4 minutes. No, it wasn't. No. Thank you anyway, Mick. But
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, all right.
See you later, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Ravel. Vicious, but brilliant! Mule with it, Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again! The magic man has come up with another trick! Well, here's a chance to seal it, it's done! It's Georgie Kelly!